Situated along the eastern coast of Denmark stands Scandinavia's largest city and one of its richest cultural hubs, and that city is known as Copenhagen. Planning a trip to Copenhagen can be difficult, not because it's hard to find things to do, but because there are so many activities to choose from. Hey everybody, I'm Wes Vergaard with WorkRemotelyLiveRemotely.com, and on today's video, I'm going to cover a ton of different things to do when visiting Copenhagen. Along the way, I'll also cover a number of useful tips I learned while exploring Denmark's capital city. With that said, we're going to begin today's video by covering the most important thing to know when visiting Copenhagen. And the most important thing to know about is called the Copenhagen Card. The Copenhagen Card is probably the single most useful tourism tool I've ever used in my travels. The Copenhagen Card provides access to over 80 city attractions in the entire public transportation system. That card will cover virtually everything we discuss in today's video. First, download the CPH Card app, then determine how many days of access you'll need and purchase it in the app. Just be sure not to activate the pass until you've arrived in Copenhagen and are ready to actually use it. Why haven't more cities thought of this? Okay, next up we're going to discuss one of my favorite activities in Copenhagen, which is to visit Rosenborg Castle. Built in the 17th century, the Rosenborg Castle is one of Copenhagen's most recognizable and easily accessible castles. If you're short on time and can only tour one cultural site in Copenhagen, this should be the one that you do. From the outside, enjoy views of the castle's massive walls. And while exploring the interior, you'll view many of the royal treasures accumulated by Christian IV and his descendants. Once you've finished exploring Rosenborg Castle, be sure to check out this next stop located nearby. Adjacent to Rosenborg Castle, you'll find one of Copenhagen's most beautiful green spaces, the aptly named King's Garden. Copenhagen is known for its rainy climate, but on sunny days, you're sure to encounter throngs of locals hanging out and sunbathing across the sprawling garden grounds. Entrance to the garden grounds is free, even for those who do not possess a Copenhagen card. Okay, the next area we're going to cover in today's video is called Tivoli Garden. Tivoli Gardens is probably not going to be the largest amusement park you ever visit, but it will almost certainly be the oldest. Tivoli Gardens first opened in 1843 and sits in the center of Copenhagen near the central train station. From high-flying swings to roller coasters and even a haunted house, there's something for everybody. Between rides, be sure to check out one of the arcades, restaurants, or carnival-style games located within the park. I will highlight that even though the Copenhagen Card covers your park entry fee, you'll still need to fork up for ride passes or pay for individual ride tickets when you're actually inside the park. This theme park is full of energy, so it's worth checking out even if you only stop by for a cold beer. Next up, we're going to talk about an area of Copenhagen known as Nyhaven. While the word Nyhaven translates into New Harbor, there's really nothing new about this area. This 17th century waterfront district is one of the most picturesque spots in all of Copenhagen. The Nyhaven area at one time held a reputation for being Copenhagen's version of the red light district. Nowadays, visitors flock to the waterfront shops and restaurants while enjoying stunning views of the colorful buildings that line the harbor. This isn't going to be the cheapest area to find a meal or a drink, but it's well worth visiting. Another tip for visiting Copenhagen is to explore the city by boat. Like many cities across Scandinavia and Northern Europe, Copenhagen boasts a number of beautiful waterways throughout the city. Not only is this a fun way to explore the city, but there are a number of options available for no additional cost if you've already acquired the Copenhagen Card. There's also no shortage of beautiful parks and outdoor activities to partake in when roaming about Copenhagen, and the Botanical Garden is a further example of this. Built in the late 1800s, the Copenhagen Botanical Garden is known for its extensive outdoor garden, variety of vegetation within the iconic glass houses, and its world-class butterfly exhibit. Be sure to budget a few hours if you plan to hit everything this area has to offer. When exploring the large glass house shown here, be sure to keep an eye out for the stairwell that leads to the top of the building. From up above, you'll enjoy incredible views of the vegetation housed in the exhibit below, as well as views looking out into the garden area. Just be mindful that it can be extremely hot and humid in here. It is a greenhouse after all. Moving on to our next activity, are you even visiting a European city if you don't visit at least one art museum during your travels? That's where the National Gallery of Denmark comes into play. The SMK Museum is home to Denmark's largest collection of art, some of which dates back to the 13th century. One reality of visiting Copenhagen is that it tends to rain quite often. This is a great activity to keep in your back pocket in case you inevitably encounter a rainy day. Just like museums, you're sure to find at least one jaw-dropping church built centuries ago in many of Europe's cultural hubs. Our next stop in this video is Frederiks Church. Frederiks Church was initially started in 1749, but was left incomplete for many years before being completed in the form we see today during 1894. Visiting this stone behemoth couldn't be easier as a metro station is located just behind the building. The curb appeal is stunning, but be sure to pop inside to view the massive dome's decorative interior. The church is generally open to the public, but be sure to check for current visiting hours online before visiting. Coming up next is an area located within a stone's throw from Frederiksborg Church, where you'll find home to Denmark's royal family at the Amalienborg Palace. Along the square, you'll be able to observe the royal guards patrolling the area, a large equestrian statue, and the Amalienborg Museum, which visitors can explore. If the timing works out, be sure to stop by the Palace Square at noon to observe the changing of the guard ceremony. If you spent any time looking at a map of Copenhagen planning out your travels, then perhaps you've already stumbled upon this next location, which is the star-shaped military camp of Kastellet. The Kastellet area is still used today by Denmark's Ministry of Defense. Chances are you'll even encounter armed guards when entering the fort. Despite the military function, locals and visitors enjoy this area as if it were a city park and green space. Be sure to walk to the western point of Kastellet, which boasts a windmill and historic cannon. The next location I'm going to highlight in this video is easily reached from the Kastellet area, and that is the Little Mermaid statue. In my opinion, the Little Mermaid statue is one of the most overrated things I've ever seen in my travels. The statue is rather unimpressive, and in my opinion, doesn't have any real meaningful history behind it. I only included it in today's video because most travel guides mentioned it without warning you about how underwhelming it actually is. Don't feel like you need to hit this one, but it is conveniently located near Kastellet, so it pairs well with a visit here if you so desire. Our next stop in today's video pays homage to Denmark's contributions to astronomy. The round tower was built in the early 17th century with the goal of furthering the country's astrological prowess. The majority of the tower's interior houses a large spiral ramp, and that ramp leads visitors from the street up to the rooftop viewing area. During your ascent, you'll have the opportunity to explore a number of nooks and crannies throughout the tower interior. Once you reach the top, you'll be able to enjoy some of the best panoramic views in all of Copenhagen. Are you looking to acquire some art while visiting Copenhagen? Situated near the base of the round tower, you'll find local artist Nasco. You'll find him here most days creating high-quality works of original art. Be sure to stop by, say hello, and browse his current offering. If you're not in the market for new art, what about doing some shopping? Copenhagen's high-end shopping area is known as Stroget Street. Stroget Street is located between two landmarks of Christiansborg Castle and the Round Tower. Be warned, this is by far the busiest and most crowded area of the city. You'll find a sea of tourists, street performers, and high-end shopping boutiques as far as the eye can see. If you aren't afraid of heights and don't mind ascending the 400 very steep steps to the top, consider this next activity located in the Christianshavn area of Copenhagen. The church itself dates back to 1695, while the decorative spire was completed in 1752. The pathways leading up the spire within the church are narrow and fairly steep. If you're afraid of heights or claustrophobic, I probably wouldn't recommend this activity. But for your troubles, you'll be rewarded with spectacular views of the city. Be sure to visit around sunset for the best possible experience. There's no shortage of great food options in Copenhagen. And one of my favorite places to visit is the Broens Gadekokken Outdoor Food Court, which I also probably butchered the name of that, so look up how to spell it in the description below. Broens Gadekokken can easily be reached from the Nyhaven area by crossing the Interhavensbroen Bridge by bike or on foot. The outdoor seating area faces the water, which means the views are spectacular, especially around sunset. Here you'll find a variety of food stalls and cocktail shops ready to satisfy the thirst and hunger you've built up after a full day of exploring Copenhagen. This is a popular area among locals, so don't be surprised that there are long lines at the food stalls, especially on nicer days. Speaking of other food courts that I can't pronounce the name of, be sure to check out the Torvhall Market during your trip to Copenhagen as well. Torvhall is located in close proximity to the Botanical Garden and Rosenborg Castle, so it pairs well as a meal option with either one of those activities. On the interior, you'll find a number of restaurants, coffee shops, and pastry specialists. There's a fresh farmer's market outside, and the Danish have an excellent reputation for strawberries, so be sure to pick some up while you're here as well. Next up on our list is the perfect place to enjoy a flight of craft beer in central Copenhagen. Good Ol Microbrewery features a wide selection of craft beers on tap and in cans. The interior is best described as cozy, and the staff are extremely friendly. If you're looking to warm up on a cooler rainy day, then be sure to pop inside. There are also seats lining the sidewalks outside, so you can enjoy your delicious glass of fermented fun juice while taking in the sun and fresh air outside. It's no secret that Copenhagen locals love to bike, which leads us to our next activity. While you'll have no trouble navigating Copenhagen's visitor-friendly public transportation system, renting a bike is another great way to see the city. You'll see proper bike lanes throughout much of Copenhagen, as well as ample places to park your ride. Just be sure to brush up on the local cycling rules in Copenhagen before you visit. Our next activity is to climb the 300 plus steps to the top of Copenhagen's City Hall Tower. Located near Tivoli Gardens, these steps will lead you up over 100 meters to some of the best views in Copenhagen. Like most activities mentioned in today's video, the Copenhagen Pass will grant you access to the City Hall Tower, which means you won't have to shell out any extra cash for a visit. Up next, be sure to check out Christiansborg Castle. If you haven't caught on by now, there are a lot of castles, palaces, and other kinds of cultural gold mines scattered throughout Copenhagen. Christiansborg sits on its own small island surrounded by a canal within the heart of Copenhagen. When visiting Christiansborg, it's important to know that exploring the grounds consists of several different sub-activities. Visitors will need separate tickets to explore the royal stables, royal reception rooms, ruins underneath the castle, royal kitchen, and for the tower viewing experience. If you plan to do the Christiansborg Tower experience, be mindful that this area is most likely to have long lines. Copenhagen has a reputation for excellent nightlife, from college bars to exclusive nightclubs and everything in between. You're sure to find your vibe no matter which evening experience you prefer. Be mindful that the bars can have very long lines, many of the nightclubs don't open until after 11 p.m., and the cocktail bars often require reservations. Pay close attention to hours and research your desired stops ahead of time. Next up is a Copenhagen activity that's certainly off the beaten path. The Assistens Churchyard is a cemetery in Copenhagen where locals don't just come to mourn the loss of their loved one. Quite the contrary, actually. Here the belief is that the beautiful green park space that encompasses the cemetery is also meant to be experienced and enjoyed. Taking a walk through the beautiful grounds of Assistens Churchyard Cemetery is a must for anyone visiting Copenhagen. There's even a map near the entrances that highlights some of the most famous people buried here. Don't be surprised to see throngs of people walking their dogs, riding bikes, or even sunbathing on warmer days throughout the cemetery. Okay, if you're looking for a local food to try, be sure to grab a Smorrebrod. Again, probably butchering the pronunciation of this. Smorrebrod is basically an open-faced sandwich commonly found throughout Scandinavia. Start with a slice of buttered bread and start adding toppings. While you'll often find these with more traditional open-faced sandwich ingredients layered on top, there's really no limit to what people have decided to put on them. Okay guys, that's about it for activities I was able to squeeze into our Copenhagen trip. But before we conclude this video, I wanted to briefly mention 3 other activities we didn't have time to try that I think you might like as well. First, there are a number of castles located outside of Copenhagen worth day tripping to. Most notably is Frederiksborg Castle. Second, if you like beer, check out Carlsberg Brewery Tours. When we visited Copenhagen, the brewery tour was under construction and closed to the public, so unfortunately we missed out on this one. And lastly, Copenhagen has a number of public beaches. If the weather is nice enough during your stay, consider spending an afternoon soaking up the Scandinavian sun. Okay, that's it. That's all that I've got. If you found this video helpful, be sure to check out the Copenhagen post I wrote, which is available on my blog. I've included links to that post along with other content you might find helpful when trip planning in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some of our other channel content while you're at it as well. Once again, I'm Wes Murgaard with WorkRemotely, LiveRemotely.com, and thanks for watching.